welcome to our deep dive into the world of women's mental health.
Oh, exciting.
It is right. We're going to be looking at some excerpts from the National Institute of Mental Health website.
Oh, right, the NIMH.
Yeah, the NIMH, exactly.
Great resource.
Yeah, and hopefully we can come away with a better understanding of this, this complex topic.
Yeah, definitely.
It's often overlooked.
Absolutely.
One of the things that really stood out to me right away was the fact that women experience certain mental health conditions at at much higher rates than men.
Okay.
Like, did you know that depression, anxiety disorders, and eating disorders are significantly more common
Oh, yeah, that's right.
in women?
And while societal pressures definitely play a part,
Right.
there's a growing understanding
Okay.
that biological factors,
Yeah.
especially hormones,
Okay.
have a huge influence as well.
So it's not just about, like, feeling stressed because of external pressures.
No.
There's something deeper going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Think about the major hormonal shifts that women go through.
Right.
Puberty, pregnancy, menstruation, menopause.
Wow. Yeah.
These aren't just physical changes, they're impacting brain chemistry in really profound ways.
That makes sense, but could you give me, like, a concrete example of how this plays out
Sure.
in real life?
Yeah, let's take PMDD, or premenstrual dysphoric disorder,
Okay.
as an example.
I've heard of that.
You might be familiar with PMS,
Yeah.
which can cause mood swings and irritability in the days leading up to your period.
Mm-hmm.
But PMDD is much more severe.
Okay.
We're talking about debilitating symptoms like intense sadness, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts
Wow.
that can significantly impact daily life.
I have to admit, I thought PMDD was just a dramatic way of saying PMS.
Right.
It sounds like a completely different...
ball game.
It is. And it's just one example of how hormonal fluctuations can contribute to mental health challenges.
You mentioned in your notes that you're interested in learning more about perimenopause.
Yes.
Well, that's another time when hormonal shifts can lead to an increased risk of depression and anxiety.
This is all starting to make a lot more sense, but it also seems kind of scary.
Oh,
Like, if these hormonal changes are so powerful, does that mean that women are just at the mercy of their biology?
Not necessarily when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
Awareness is key.
Okay.
By understanding how hormones can impact mood and well-being, women can be proactive about managing their mental health.
Oh, okay.
For example, if you know that you're prone to mood swings before your period, you can start tracking your cycle.
Right.
And develop coping strategies to deal with those fluctuations.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, like, recognizing that these biological factors exist.
Exactly.
It's about using that knowledge to take control of your experience.
Exactly. And that's where some of the research from the NIMH comes in. They're not only trying to understand the biological underpinnings of these conditions, but they're also developing targeted treatments
Right.
that take those factors into account.
Okay, so there is hope
Absolutely.
for women who are struggling with these issues.
Absolutely. There are many effective treatments available.
That's good.
And research is constantly evolving.
Okay.
And it's important to remember that mental health isn't just about the absence of illness.
Okay.
It's about overall well-being.
Right.
Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how hormones can impact women's mental health.
Right.
But I'm curious to learn more about the specific conditions that are more common in women. What can you tell me about those?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Let's dive into some of those specific conditions.
Okay.
We've already touched on PMDD,
Yeah.
but anxiety disorders are another big one. In fact, women are twice as likely as men to experience generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder,
Oh, wow.
and phobias.
Wow. Twice as likely. That's a huge difference.
It is.
What's behind that disparity? Is it all about hormones or?
Hormones definitely play a role,
Okay.
especially when you consider how they can impact our stress response systems.
Right.
But there are also social and environmental factors to consider.
Okay.
For instance, women are more likely to experience certain types of trauma,
Right.
such as sexual assault or domestic violence,
Yeah.
which can contribute to anxiety disorders.
That makes sense. Trauma can definitely leave
Absolutely.
a lasting impact on mental health.
Yeah, and even everyday stressors,
Oh, sure.
like juggling work and family responsibilities, can take a toll.
Right.
It's important to acknowledge that women often face unique pressures and expectations in our society.
Totally.
And those can contribute to mental health challenges.
It's like society is setting women up for anxiety.
That might be a bit of an overstatement.
Yeah.
but there's definitely some truth to that.
Right.
And it's important to remember that these social and cultural factors can intersect with biological vulnerabilities to create a perfect storm for anxiety disorders.
You mentioned in your notes that you're a big proponent of mindfulness and meditation.
Yes.
Do you think that those practices can help women manage anxiety?
I do. Mindfulness and meditation can be incredibly powerful tools for calming the nervous system and developing a sense of inner peace. They can help you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Right.
Which can be really helpful in managing anxiety.
So it's not about making the anxiety go away,
right,
but more about learning to coexist with it in a healthier way.
Exactly. Anxiety is a normal human emotion.
Yeah.
And it's often trying to tell us something important. The key is to learn how to listen to it without letting it take over.
I love that. It's like reframing anxiety as a messenger instead of an enemy.
Great analogy.
Thanks.
Now, shifting gears a bit, another mental health condition that disproportionately affects women is depression.
This one isn't too surprising, right?
Yeah.
We've all heard about the baby blues and postpartum depression.
Yeah.
But is there more to it than just...
There's definitely more to the story.
Okay.
While those hormonal shifts can trigger depressive episodes, women are actually more vulnerable to depression throughout their lives.
Okay.
Not just during the postpartum period.
Interesting. So why are women more susceptible to depression in general?
It's likely a combination of factors. As we've discussed, hormones play a role.
Right.
But so do social and environmental factors. Women are more likely to experience poverty, discrimination, and violence.
Yeah, that's true.
Which can all contribute to depression.
Right.
Plus, there's a lot of pressure on women to be perfect in all areas of their lives.
Oh, I know. To be successful at work, to be amazing mothers, to look a certain way.
Yeah.
It's a lot to handle.
I could definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly being bombarded with messages about how we're supposed to look, act, and feel.
Yeah.
No wonder so many women are...
It's a lot to process.
Struggling with depression.
For sure. And it's important to remember that depression isn't just about feeling sad.
Okay.
It can manifest in many different ways.
Right.
Including changes in sleep, appetite, energy levels, and even physical health.
So what can women do to protect their mental health?
What?
And reduce their risk of developing depression?
There are many things that can help.
Okay.
Building strong social connections, engaging in regular exercise, and practicing stress management techniques can all be beneficial.
Okay.
And if you're struggling, seeking professional help is crucial.
It sounds like taking care of your mental health is an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
Not just something you do when you're feeling down. It's about cultivating habits and practices that support your overall well-being.
Yeah.
Even when you're feeling good.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like preventative mental health care.
Exactly. And speaking of preventative care,
okay,
we should talk about eating disorders.
Oh, yes.
Another area where women are disproportionately affected.
I was just about to bring that up.
Okay.
I know eating disorders are a huge problem.
Yeah.
Especially among young women. But I'm not sure I understand the connection to the other mental health issues we've been discussing.
Yeah.
How does it all fit together?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
While eating disorders can seem very different from anxiety or depression, they're often intertwined.
Okay.
Many people with eating disorders also struggle with anxiety and depression, and vice versa.
So it's not always a clear-cut diagnosis.
Right.
Sometimes these conditions can overlap.
Exactly.
And influence each other.
Precisely. It's more like a spectrum than a set of neatly defined boxes.
Right.
And there are often underlying factors that contribute to both eating disorders and other mental health conditions.
Yeah.
For example, low self-esteem, perfectionism, and a need for control are common traits in people who struggle with these issues.
This is all starting to paint a much more complex picture of women's mental health.
It is complex.
Yeah?
It's not just about individual conditions.
Right.
It's about understanding how they intersect and influence each other.
You're getting it.
You got it.
And that's why it's so important to approach mental health from a holistic perspective.
Yes.
Considering all the biological, social, and environmental factors that might be at play.
For sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about anxiety, depression, and eating disorders. And we've touched on the importance of preventative mental health care. What else should we be thinking about when it comes to women's mental health?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is the importance of recognizing the unique challenges
Okay.
that women face at different stages of life.
Can you elaborate on that a bit? What do you
Yeah.
mean by
Sure.
unique challenges?
Think about it.
Oh,
From puberty to pregnancy to menopause and beyond,
right.
women experience a roller coaster of hormonal changes and life transitions
Yeah.
that can significantly impact their mental health.
Yeah,
And each stage comes with its own set of pressures and expectations.
that's true.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed how my own mental health has shifted and evolved over the
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
but I've never really thought about it in terms of these broader life
Yeah.
stages.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It
For
is.
example, adolescence is a time of immense change and vulnerability.
Right.
And it's a period when many mental health conditions first emerge.
Okay.
Then you have the transition into adulthood with
Hmm.
all of the pressures of career, relationships,
Mm.
and starting a family.
Right, right.
And later in life, women face the challenges of aging, caregiving,
Yeah.
and hormonal changes associated with menopause.
It's almost like we need a mental health roadmap
Right.
for each stage of a woman's life.
Yeah.
Something that could guide us
Yeah,
through the unique challenges
absolutely.
and opportunities that come with each transition.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's what the NIMH is trying to do with their research.
Oh.
They're working to understand how women's mental health needs change over time
Right.
and to develop targeted interventions that can support women at every stage of life.
This is all so incredibly insightful.
It is.
I'm realizing
Yeah.
that there's so much more to women's mental health
Yeah.
than I ever realized.
It is a complex issue.
But I have to admit, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed
Yeah.
by all of this information.
It's understandable. It's a lot to take in.
Right.
But remember, you don't have to memorize all of this. The key takeaway is that women's mental health is complex and multifaceted,
Right.
and it deserves our attention.
That's a great point, and I think that's a perfect place to pause for now.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our deep dive and talk about how we can use this information to advocate for ourselves and the women in our lives.
Whoa.
Okay, we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into women's mental health.
Sounds good.
We've explored anxiety and depression and eating disorders, and we've touched on those unique challenges women face
Right.
at different stages of their lives.
Absolutely.
You know, all this talk about hormonal fluctuations and societal pressures and
Yeah.
all these unique challenges at each stage of life. It makes me realize we need to be talking about this stuff more openly.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Right?
Breaking down the stigma surrounding mental health is crucial.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay
Right.
and to seek help when needed.
Exactly. And I think that starts with just having these honest conversations about these issues.
For sure. Absolutely.
How can we support each other? Like,
Right.
what are some practical ways?
For starters, we can be mindful of the language we use when talking about mental health.
Okay.
Let's avoid dismissive phrases like snap out of it or just relax.
Right. Those kind of comments can make people feel very
Yeah, exactly.
invalidated, even more isolated.
Yeah.
Right? Instead, we can offer empathy and encouragement.
Absolutely.
We can listen without judgment and validate each other's experiences.
For sure.
We can also educate ourselves about mental health resources
Right.
and share that information with others.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how many helpful tools and support systems are out there,
Yeah.
but people just don't know about them.
Right. And the NIMH website that you provided is an excellent starting point.
Yeah.
They have a wealth of information on different conditions, treatment options, and even tips for finding mental health professionals in your area.
That's right. And let's not forget about advocating for
Yeah.
policy changes
Yeah, absolutely.
that support women's mental health.
Yeah.
We need better access to affordable mental health care, more research funding,
Yes.
and just greater awareness of these issues in our communities.
I completely agree. We can make a real difference by raising our voices and demanding change.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned so much more about women's mental health
Me too.
and all the many factors that contribute to our well-being.
For sure.
As we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
Take a moment to reflect on what you've learned today. How can you use this knowledge to advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
support the women in your life,
Right.
and contribute to a more mentally healthy world?
Remember, knowledge is power. And by sharing that power, we can create a world where women feel empowered to prioritize their mental health and seek help without shame or judgment.
That's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into women's mental health.
It was a pleasure.
We hope you found it informative and empowering.
Yes.
Until next time.